Good evening, this is Mr. Wintermelon. In the previous two videos, we have learned how does the plant makes its own food as well as the organ responsible for photosynthesis. In this video, we are going to learn more about the structure in the leaf that allows the carbon dioxide to enter the leaves. It is also important to take note that stomata is important for the uptake of water or the transport of water from the root to the leaf. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe the intake of carbon dioxide as well as water by the plant. So what is the function of stomata? Simply put it, it is for carbon dioxide to diffuse into the leaf as well as oxygen to diffuse out. Please copy this down. So it's as simple as this. Carbon dioxide to go in and oxygen to go out. And the process is diffusion. So all is good until you consider this. If stomata is meant for gas exchange, why don't they just open the stomata all the time? Like our nose is open all the time. In the chapter of osmosis as well as diffusion, we learned that stomata can actually open and close depending on the time of the day. And the opening is dependent on the gut cell. So the structure of gut cell, to be honest, is more for your information. But let us just look just slightly more in detail. But just keep in mind, you will not be tested for the structure. So we have our stomata down here. You will, however, need to recognize the gut cell, which is the cell that is surrounding the stomata. If we take a closer look, you can see that the gut cell is actually bean-shaped, and actually the cellulose have different thickness. That means one side is thicker than the others. So when water enters the gut cell through osmosis, different side of the gut cell will actually expand at different rate, which is why it will cause the shape to be more curved. And the stomata, as a result, will become wider. There is also a lot of chloroplast. This abundance of chloroplast or a lot of chloroplast that is found inside the gut cell is important and is inside the syllabus. So you just need to take note that the gut cell have chloroplast. And it's important for the gut cell to have this chloroplast because it actually requires a lot of energy. This is due to the mechanism for the opening as well as closing of the stomata. In the dark, stomata is closed. Once it's exposed to sunlight, photosynthesis is initiated. So since photosynthesis took place, the plant now have glucose and is able to use the glucose to release more energy for active transport. Why does it need active transport? So the active transport will help to pump potassium ion into the cytoplasm. So when ion enter the cytoplasm, what do you think will happen to the water potential? The water potential will actually decrease and it will be lower than its surrounding cell. This will result in water entering the gut cell through osmosis, and the gut cell will swell up, and because the thickness of cellulose in the gut cell is different, and this will result in the stomata being open wider so as to allow more carbon dioxide to diffuse into the leaf. So the main reason for opening of stomata during the daytime is to allow carbon dioxide to diffuse in so that the plant can make food. At night, photosynthesis will stop, so the plant will stop producing glucose. And since the concentration of potassium ion inside the gut cell is higher than the surrounding, they will diffuse out. And they are not being actively pumped in because the plant has stopped photosynthesizing and it does not want to waste more energy to open the stomata. And as a result, the water potential in the gut cell will increase, and water molecules will start moving out through osmosis. Then the gut cell will become flaccid and the stoma will close. And this is very useful because at night, since there's no sunlight, plant will not have enough energy to make glucose. So no point opening the stomata, because you will learn in the next chapter, if the plant opens stomata, it will lead to consequences. Just imagine you open your mouth for a prolonged period. Will you feel thirsty? So there are some factors controlling the stomata opening. First, it is light, because when there's light, the plant can undergo photosynthesis and it will have more energy to allow active transport of potassium ion into the gut cell, and this will result in the change in water potential, and water will move in through osmosis, causing the gut cell to swell and open the stomata even further. If the plant is well supplied with water, the stomata will also open. I would say this is not a very important point. Carbon dioxide concentration, which is a bit counterintuitive. If there's a low concentration of carbon dioxide, the stomata will actually open. While when there's a high concentration of carbon dioxide, the stomata will actually close. Like I said, there's a consequences for opening stomata. Plants actually do not want to open stomata if it have the choice. But to allow more carbon dioxide to diffuse in, the stomata will have to open. And in situation whereby there's high concentration of carbon dioxide, that means carbon dioxide can actually diffuse in easily. Stomata does not have to open so widely. That's why they try to close it. But of course, out of these three factors, I would say light is the most important factor that you will have to know. Next, let us examine how does carbon dioxide exactly diffuse in. So during the day, carbon dioxide in the leaf is actually lower than the surrounding because carbon dioxide is being converted into glucose. So carbon dioxide molecules from the surrounding air will diffuse through the stomata into the airspace. And remember the thin layer of moist on the spongy mesophyll cell. The carbon dioxide will dissolve in the thin layer of moist, and only when dissolved, the carbon dioxide can diffuse into the cell for it to be converted into glucose. So this is one part of photosynthesis. There's also another molecule that is needed, and that is water. So how does the water enter the mesophyll cell? Water first enters the plant through the root and makes its way to the xylem inside the leaves. The exact detail we will go through this in the next chapter in transport of plant. So after it enters the xylem of the leaf, it has to make its way to the mesophyll cell. This is important because it has to undergo photolysis for the plant to generate hydrogen ion, which is used to reduce carbon dioxide to produce glucose. So as photosynthesis takes place, it consumes water. 12 water molecules goes in and we only get 6 water molecules in return. There's a net loss of 6 water molecules, which is why the water potential in the mesophyll cell will drop as photosynthesis takes place. Water from the xylem will enter the mesophyll cell through osmosis because the water potential of the mesophyll cell has dropped since photosynthesis will consume water. And this will be all for this lesson.